Welcome to Minding the Mysteries, a catechetical podcast that explores the depths of our Orthodox and Catholic faith in the English tradition. I'm Matthew Stewart, Digital Media Director for the Anglican Province of America, along with your hosts Father Wade Miller and Father Randall Russell from St. Philip's Anglican Church in Blacksburg, Virginia. We're glad to have you with us as we dig deeper into the faith that was once for all delivered to the saints. Okay, folks, we have a special episode. I know that the new season hasn't quite started yet, but we have a special occasion for an episode. We have here at St. Philip's in Blacksburg, Virginia, we have an Olympian as a parishioner. We have Mrs. Bridget Williams, who just made the Olympic team for the women's pole vaulting. So we're really excited, and we're glad to have her here this morning for an interview to talk a little bit about herself and her achievements. So I will go ahead and turn this over to Father Miller, who is going to be fielding the questions for Miss Bridget. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So excited. I watched the trials, and my wife and I were screaming and jumping.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It was awesome.
Well, yeah, and like you said, we didn't plan on putting out any new content until probably around September, but something kind of big happened, and not only did Bridget go, and I'm going to let her explain some of this, not only did she go to the trials, she won the whole pole vaulting competition. So it was really exciting, and we're excited. She's excited. I know she's still got a lot of work that she's putting in, getting ready to go to Paris. So I thought it would be cool because I've had people text me, I've had people ask me, and I thought, this would be a good interview that I think people would really enjoy and really enjoy hearing her story. So welcome, Bridget. Thank you. Yeah. And before I even begin the slate of questions I have here, you and I have been working together for 2 years, 3 years,
4
years, like
2020.
4 years.
Yeah.
My, how time flies.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, officially, I think 2020, I started in the fall working for you, but we did marriage counseling and catechesis in 2019.
Yeah. So
it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been great. And Bridget's our administrator here. She's the one that, anybody will tell you.
She keeps the ship afloat.
Yeah. She keeps me on track and on schedule in our church. And And
it's amazing that even when she's gone across the world to another country, with a competition or something, she's still making sure things get done here. Like she isn't even gone.
I know.
I don't even understand how that works.
Yeah.
She'll be in Belgium or Budapest, and email comes through, hey, did you get this?
I know. Sometimes I think she's clearing 15 feet in the pole texting me. Do you have anything for the newsletter this week?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like you never know she's gone.
Yeah. No, we love having Bridget and her husband, James. And so anyways, I have some questions, and some of these questions just come from people that have asked me, and I thought, well, I don't have the answers, so I'll ask you. So
go to the source.
Some of these I do know the answers to, and the first one I do, but I think it would be good for people to know your background, where you're from, and how did you get here to this small area in southwestern Virginia?
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Pittsburgh in a town called Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And I was a track and field athlete growing up in high school. And I eventually went to college at UVA, and that's where I met my husband, James. He was also on the track and field team. He threw the discus and the shot put and a little bit of the hammer throughout his career. But anyways, he grew up in Southwest Virginia in the New River Valley. And so, when our college career ended, he decided that he was going to come back to Blacksburg, to his hometown and start his career here. And I was injured my junior year of college at UVA. And so I had a fifth year redshirt year. So he came back home and I finished my schooling at UVA, and then we got engaged. And so and COVID hit. I guess that was a big factor in our decision, or in my decision to come to Blacksburg as soon as I did. And so we got married earlier than we had thought. We moved our wedding up and did what everyone else wasn't doing during COVID. And we decided that, we'd buy a house here in town and that I would come, I would move here as soon as we got married. And so that's how I ended up in Blacksburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did their wedding.
Yeah.
We had to do an outdoor venue because of COVID.
Yep.
And it was absolutely beautiful. It really was.
It was hot.
Yeah. But that's what I was going to say. I sweat through all my clothes. It was really hot. It was the end of July.
Yep.
But also just a wonderful day and one that I'll always remember. So, yeah.
Yes, too. God was definitely on our side because nobody got sick. We had, everybody that was meant to be there was there, and it really went out without a hitch.
That's true. Yeah, it was great. So, follow-up question to that. Mm-hmm. What was your religious background?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I grew up Roman Catholic pretty much my whole life. And, my parents took me to church. My dad is Lutheran. My mom is Roman Catholic, but I grew up in the Roman Catholic Church. And, I went through pretty elementary level of catechesis, like in elementary school, I guess, some in middle school. But as I got older, we didn't really... I was always a believer, but didn't really practice my faith in terms of worship. Like I didn't go to, we kind of fell off going to church, and I wasn't involved in Bible study or anything like that. And it wasn't until college, really, that my first college roommate, freshman year, her name was Kate, and she was, strong in her faith. She got to UVA really eager to do all of these, Bible studies and Christian groups, I guess. And she was always inviting me to go, and she really wanted me to go. And I just was like, no, that's intimidating, and I don't know enough, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. And but she would always come home, and she'd be really, eager to tell me what she learned and share. And she was one of those friends that would like pray over you, which is like really different than a Roman Catholic. You don't really see a lot of Roman Catholics like praying over a friend out loud. And so that was really cool. And I feel like that really, but that was like the first point of contact that I had with like, coming back into touch with my, faith, and, just taking ownership and wanting a relationship of my own that was mine, and not, this is what you're supposed to do, or this is how it's supposed to be done. I felt like that was kind of the first person to really encourage me to like pursue a relationship of my own with God. And then to build on that, when I started dating James, he was pretty foundational in introducing me to the Anglican faith, which is quite similar to the Roman Catholic faith in terms of how the Mass is set up. And I felt like that was when I really started digging deep into my faith, because it was challenging, right? You have someone who grew up as an Anglican Catholic, trying to teach me what it's about, and I had a lot of questions, and I was, just to be frank, like we weren't living Catholic lives in college. We were messing up a lot and making a lot of mistakes, and so it was challenging. And you're trying to form a relationship that is built on something stronger and bigger than yourself, which is God. But you're two broken people and you're young, and so it was just like a really challenging time, I guess, in life. But all that to say, I think it just made us both dig deeper into our faith. And so I would say, like in college, that's when I really started to explore and want and desire, like this intimate relationship with Christ that I was taught from a young age, but never really acted upon until college, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Yeah. No, that's makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people, especially when they go through college, have a very similar story. Yeah. So.
Yeah, you're tested in a lot of different ways. And you're, I think Father Mark Perkins, when he was talking about the what's the school called? St. Dunstan's. Yeah. And he was like, okay, your kids go to high school or go away for school. And then they're really, they put to test what you've taught them your whole life as a parent. And I think for in college, that's exactly what happened to us. We were like, okay, what sticks and what is working, what's not working, etc.
Yeah. No, that's good. So what possessed you then to take up a sport where you stick a pole in the ground and you jump over things?
Yeah. So I was a gymnast growing up my whole life, from like the age of 4 on. And, when I became of age, I started competing in gymnastics, and I had some success. I was powerful and I was strong, but, I wasn't a very pretty gymnast. My toes were flexed, my arms were bent, legs were bent, etc. And in Pennsylvania, where I grew up, you were only allowed to start sports for your school in the 7th grade. And so there were a few girls that were older than me who were also doing the pole vault, who were also gymnasts. And they were experiencing some success. And so I thought, okay, well, they're gymnasts like me, and they have similar body types to me, and they're strong like me and fast. And so I thought, okay, I'll just follow in their footsteps. And the rest is kind of history. I mean, I was by no means very good in the 7th grade or the 8th grade. The girls that were older than me were better. They jumped higher. And a lot of the times the school could only send 2 or 3 girls to these meets. And so a lot of times I didn't compete alongside of them unless there was room for, a 3rd girl or a 4th girl, etc. So yeah, I just followed in their footsteps and then just stuck with it. I mean, it's a contagious event in terms of like, it's challenging, it makes you, you have to have a bigger purpose of why you do the sport than just for the sake of jumping to jump, because it's sometimes not very fun. Mm-hmm. It's super challenging. It's arguably more mental than it is physical for a lot of girls. And so, but I stuck with it and followed in their footsteps. And, we all ended up going to college, different areas, different schools, but we all kind of just rode the wave together from middle school on.
So when did the thought of, hey, I want to go to the Olympics, or I think I have a shot at doing this?
Yeah, I think it's like multifaceted. That's a multifaceted question, because, if you would have asked me in the middle school, say, do you think you're going to make it to the Olympics one day? I would have said, I don't know, but I would love to go for gymnastics. Like, I wanted to go to the Olympics for gymnastics. I looked up to Shawn Johnson and Nastia Liukin pretty much my whole like adolescence life. And, I think I got to a point in high school where I decided to stop gymnastics because I wasn't doing very well in it, compared to the other girls that were, kind of hitting that next level of gymnastics. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to just give that up and I'm going to do track now, and I'm going to see how far I can do this. But even so, like, I didn't hit any substantial height until like my senior year of high school. I wasn't jumping. I only won the state meet one time as a senior. I only jumped 12.6 one time as a senior, and I don't even think that height would get you a college recruitment letter now. So the times have definitely changed. So just to go to college at that point was like, okay, wow, this is a dream. I'm getting to go, to the University of Virginia on a scholarship for track and field, when I only jumped 12.6 once at the very last meet of the year. I never did well at nationals in high school. But I was able to just communicate to my coaches in college that I am strong and I have a really good work ethic, and I'm going to, work my tail off to get better. And they bought that, and they helped me capitalize on that. And so I would say the dream to become an Olympian in the pole vault really didn't come into my mind until the end of my college career, when I jumped 461. I guess it was even the first year out of college, right before COVID hit, in the very last meet possible, I jumped 461. I came back from the U.S. Indoor National Championship in Albuquerque, and I did not do well. And there was one opportunity left here in Blacksburg, ironically enough. And so my college coach and I came, we drove down, we came to Virginia Tech, and we thought, okay, we're going to give this one last go and see what we can do. And I ended up jumping 4.61 meters, which was like, it's a milestone jump for any female to achieve. That's a big jump. It's becoming more common now as the ball is evolving, but at the time, not many girls were jumping 4.61 meters. And that was enough to just keep me in the sport, even through COVID when it was really uncertain. And I think that was like the turning point where like, okay, you can start climbing up there into, a territory where not many girls in the country are, jumping those heights. Yeah.
So what's your highest that you've jumped so far?
Indoors, I have jumped 4.83 meters, which is like...
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that feet and inches?
Like 15, 9 or 10. I'm not familiar with the feet and inches. Yeah. I think it's somewhere around 15, 9 or 10. My outdoor personal best is 473, and that's like 15.6.
Okay.
In something.
Okay.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Someone will have to check that conversion because I'm not quite sure. So that's another thing that's different about high school pole vaulting and college and beyond pole vaulting is that in high school, you're jumping feet and inches. Okay, the bar's going to 10 feet, then you're jumping 10.6, then you're jumping 11, then you're jumping 11.6. Maybe you get to a competition where you're going up 3 inches instead of 6. But then you get to college and it's all in metric, and I remember my first year at UVA, I was like, what am I even jumping? I don't even know what I'm jumping because I wasn't familiar with the metric system because we just didn't use it. But now everything is in metric, so it's hard now to go backwards to feet and inches.
So it would not be probably a far stretch to say you're not afraid of heights.
Yeah, people always ask me, what's the most fearful part of the pole vault, and I say leaving the ground. Everyone is like, oh, it has to be from, after you've already cleared the bar and you're falling onto the mat. That's easy. Getting yourself to get off the ground sometimes can be quite fearful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. So for this podcast especially, we want to kind of focus on how has your faith helped? How has it grounded you through the ups and downs of preparing for the Olympics and life in general? Knowing you for the last 4 years, you and I have had a lot of talks about the struggles, but also the payoff of that and the work and everything. But how has your faith helped? And specifically, is there any certain things along your journey that you look back or you look to in this whole process?
Yeah, I think my faith has been, the thing that's held everything together, held me together throughout this journey, especially just like post-collegiately, because, it's kind of it can be an isolating endeavor, if you will, like you go from a college team where everything's done for you and you're just, it's kind of, in hindsight, 2020, it's easy, like you just do what you're told and then you
just show up.
Yeah, you just show up. And then when you exit that system, while I've been fortunate to train both post-collegiately at UVA alongside their team and now at Virginia Tech alongside that program, you still get to piggyback off a lot of those resources and things, but it's just different. You're not showing up and training with a group of girls, that are your teammates. They are in a sense, but their goals are different. And so I think falling back on your faith and just knowing, okay, Erin Lisenby, actually, I shout her out because she put it into really good perspective. Like, God has given you a talent that he only gives so many people, and so what are you going to do with that? And I think, these last 4 years that I've been out of college have just been really just, like, how am I going to be a good steward of what God has given me, and how am I going to share that with other people? And it's not about, it's not about heights and records and whatnot. It's about, arguably, I think what's more, exciting to share is that how good God can be even in the tribulation of chasing a big dream. And, I've heard a lot of people, kind of share in different interviews, like just because a dream is delayed doesn't mean it's denied necessarily. And I know that's kind of like cheesy, but it's true, like God is with you through the thick and the thin. And I think sometimes when you're at your lowest, which in the pole vault, for anybody who doesn't know, it's super, the technical improvements that you work towards can be super far and few between, like just, it seems like you're working years and years and years to get 1 inch or, like a few inches. And so having faith to fall back on it and God to talk to and kind of just like be your strength in the moments where you don't feel strong enough to do it or keep on has really been what's kept me in the sport, I think, this long, because I've realized that the purpose or my purpose in the sport is not necessarily to win or to, I don't know, set records. While I want those things, I do feel like there is a greater sense of purpose that God has given me to have this platform and share, my testimony and how he's worked with me through it all. And I think like it's fair to say in the prelim and in the final, like for anybody who's watched or goes back to watch the prelim, like I struggled. I was tied for last place. And, going in, I was super nervous and, just asking God to be my strength and to not necessarily take my nerves, but just to be present with me. And, I've had a lot of different, jumping around now, but I've had a lot of different experiences and trials. Like last year I was battling vertigo, and I felt like, and I competed a whole year and I had one of the best seasons of my life. And I think, people ask me, how did you do that? I'm like, I did it because God was with me, and that sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Like every single meet I went to, I felt his presence with me. And that is the only way I made it through last year, because it was just a really challenging year for me. And then, back to the prelim this year, like I said, I was tied for last, and Father Miller knows this, and people that know me closely know this, that I'm not, like, I like to have a firm grip on things, and I like to be in control, and I like to do it kind of my way, and that's just not how God works sometimes, or anytime, and you have to just put full faith in him and trust in him. And I felt like this was one of those times in my life where I was like, okay, I don't have a choice. Like, you're backed up against a corner in between the prelim and the final, and you have to let go. And it wasn't for for my glory or to win or anything like that. It was just, I was thinking back to what Aaron said, like, you have this gift for a reason, God placed this dream in your heart for a reason. So, do him proud almost, you know what I mean? Like, don't forfeit it because you're afraid, or because you don't want to mess up or you don't want to fail. Like, just go out there and be totally free and know that your worth is not rooted in your height or the performance or the placement, and just go out there and do what he has given you and enjoy that gift, and be thankful for that gift. And I felt like that's exactly what I did. And I prayed for, like James and my husband has been really, really good, a really good encourager and a really strong pillar of faith for me too, in my life. But especially between the prelim and the final, he was just like, hey, give it up, like, you've got this. And we did our morning prayer the morning of the final, and he was just very, very direct in what we needed to do and where we needed to put our attention. And that was like very comforting. And I think that's just a testament that God will, like, if you call upon him for help, he will help you. And he did,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so.
Yeah, it's incredible. Those of us that know you and go to church with you and know you and James, like you said last year, I know you spoke to a few of us about some of the challenges you were having. You were battling vertigo and things like that. But how that actually worked to make you stronger.
Yeah.
And how, that is so much of a testimony to other people when you're having these things. I mean, that vertigo can be, that can be it.
Mm-hmm.
That can be so debilitating, but
mm-hmm.
you made it through that.
Yeah.
And look now.
Yeah. And
You're going to the Olympics.
Yeah. But I also think, like, it makes you grow in your faith.
Oh, absolutely. Because like, you have to trust God.
Yeah.
You have to trust God.
And there's comfort in that, like, it's kind of counterintuitive. Well, it seems like counterintuitive to our culture or to our world or what people say, just on the street to you. But, I mean, there is comfort knowing that, okay, even like I'm meant to have this for some reason.
And it's such an example, I know, for us too, to see that, it's like, wow, she put all of her trust in God, and here you are. Yeah.
Loosen the grip. Yeah, loosen the grip, which, like I said, I'm the first to admit it's really hard for me to do sometimes. And another thing that I kept in mind that I thought was really, really interesting, because a lot of things, whether in a sport or in life, go not as planned, right? And you think, oh gosh, this is not the plan. It's not the way it's supposed to be. But I was reading something, and I forget the part of scripture that it referenced, but it was talking about creating margin. And sometimes we think, okay, if we create margin just to be with God, we're missing out. Like, we could have been more productive elsewhere, or we could have been, going for that run, or doing that load of laundry, or whatever the thing is, catching up with a friend. But if you create margin in your life, it actually will produce more fruit for you in the end. And so I've just kept that in mind, pretty much this whole year, that, okay, if we got to pull back, we got to pull back. If we got to, and just use that time, regardless of the circumstance or why you have the time, just create that time, or take the time you have and just spend it with God and be in communion with Him. And I think that, that has just, I don't want to say rewarded, but it has produced fruit in my life, on the track and outside of the track, just all around. Has made me more faithful, I think.
I think if there was one word, if somebody asked me, describe Bridget Williams, what's one word that would encapsulate who she is? And I think the word perseverance. I really do. And the other thing I will say, and one of the reasons there are many reasons I want to have you on, but one of the reasons too is I think you're an example of somebody, and it's not really anybody's business to get into all the specifics of the challenges and everything throughout the last few years, but you've continued to persevere, and yet your goal was always excellence. And I think in Christianity, a lot of times we buy into everybody gets a trophy. And so just showing up, we think we've done our part instead of striving towards excellence. Paul he uses the Olympics, actually, this whole imagery in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. He talks about, we run, but we don't just run aimlessly. We run to get the prize, and yet at the same time, what I've come to really appreciate about you, Bridget, and other people know this, and this isn't here to pat you on the back or anything, it's just stating truth, and that is, you have gone to meets where you have won Pan Am Games. You've won it. You've also gone to meets where you did not do what you expected you would do, but within that, it's kind of like I did my best. I know the changes or the corrections I need to make, but I'm still going to pursue excellence.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty important thing, especially in the day in which we live, because Christians used to lead the culture in whether it was ideas, all of these things. Now we're like that, pathetic, I hate to say it, but that person that's lapping everything up. We take the leftovers and we're not leading anymore. So, yeah.
I think you have, you can't be numb to your vocation is not the right word, but
I would use that word.
Vacation. Yeah. I think a lot of, and I think sometimes people, it's like a self-defense mechanism, right? You're like, oh, I don't care, because you don't want to get hurt, or you don't want to let somebody down, or, oh, it doesn't matter that much, but it should matter, and you should take, I'm not sure again if pride is the right word, but you should take pride in your work, and you should do it well and right and fair. And if you don't know how to do it, then you ask for help.
Yeah. And I won't get into all the specifics on this as well, but I know that in the preliminaries, you were doing some things that you just weren't comfortable with. It was kind of outside of where you thought what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And you made the changes, and you that's one area where you did take control and say, all right, this is what we're going to do. And I know James was very encouraging about that. And that's why you won. And I think as Christians, there's times where, excellence is something that is not bad. That's not selfish. It's selfish if we're just looking, to receive the accolades of everybody. But if we're trying to win, or we're trying to excel, but we're doing that to bring all glory to God, then there's nothing shameful about that. But I think oftentimes Christians have become kind of that class of people that's like, well, whatever, and there's no sense of urgency, mission. Now I'm preaching, but anyways,
it's a tough fight, especially in our culture now. It's a tough fight to be different, to stand up and fight for something that's not maybe as well accepted as it once was, or not as common. I mean, a lot of people, I think, throughout our lives, they meet James and I, and they're like, okay, so you're religious? We're like, oh yeah, we go to this our church, and we're really, it's important to us, and it's something that we're not going to negotiate on, like this is what, this is just part of us, it's an extension of who we are. And people are sometimes like, oh, okay, like it's like, told them something crazy,
Yeah.
But it also provides like a really cool teaching point, because then people are curious, and I think I tell like a lot of the younger girls that train under me, they watch, especially the girls that are, still growing in their faith, and I'm still growing in mine too. I think we always will be, but they see how you how you work under pressure, how you work under failure, how you work under adversity, and a lot of girls have come and met you even, and are curious, and I'm like, our priest is cool. He's not going to judge you. He's going to meet you where you are, and I think that provides a really cool opportunity for these young girls and guys and whoever, just to start a conversation, because I think a lot of people sometimes are either exposed in the wrong way or just not exposed at all. To this like to a, what I want to say, like a liturgical, like meaningful mess.
Yeah.
And being a Christian, the whole definition of faith is that we don't see how it maybe is all worked out, but we take that risk, if we will. And I think that's the one thing that, again, I've seen you even grow in over the last 4 years. So, it's been exciting, and we are really excited. And, again, I know the word proud sometimes has a very negative connotation, but we are proud in the good sense of the term. And, you've worked hard.
And I will say this is but important. Somebody asked me on the news, they were like, what would you say, to your community back home? Like, if you could, like here in your Valley, what would you say? And I was thinking at first and, saying thank you. But I mean, really our church family here is like unmatched. Like when I moved to Southwest Virginia, I didn't have a community at all. I mean, I had James's community, which was great, but it wasn't mine. It was just an extension of my husband's, which was fine. But I was coming from a place, in Charlottesville, where I was there for the last 6 years, and I made my community. Those people watched my whole career throughout college, and then really supported me that first year out of college, or that half a year before COVID hit. And I felt like this church really gave me that community and that sense of support, where it doesn't matter what I do on the track, really, and I think that's also just something to speak of the people that we have here at church is just really incredible, because I know not everyone is as fortunate, and some people get tied to their successes and stuff, and I definitely don't feel that way. So I think that's a big, I don't know, I just wanted to say that about our church. It's just really, really nice for me that I knew going into this year or any year, just it didn't matter. It doesn't matter, like the bigger picture is not about track. So that's really comforting also, just to be surrounded by a lot of like-minded people who care about, my spiritual well-being over my athletic career, which Sounds strange to say, but I value that tremendously.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I echo that, and based on what other people say, sometimes the church talks about being a family, and that is so like cliche and sometimes not true, but here
But it is true here, yeah.
it is.
It is absolutely true here.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, the next question, I even hate to ask this, but it's a question that I know people, would want to ask, and that is, every professional athlete has to face the time when he or she can no longer compete. Have you thought about that? And not that you should be thinking about that right now, but have you thought about that? And what would you like to do maybe after pole vault?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think, it's always in the back of my mind. Again, like going back to creating margin, I used to think, I can't even let my mind go there, because if I do, then I'm not going to make I'm not going to fulfill my goal. But I've learned over the years that that's not always true. And so, yeah, I think, it's a hard question to answer, because I don't know what I want to do. I mean, I want to work at the church still. I think the most clear thing that the Holy Spirit has put on my heart is that I want to become a mom, and that's a tension that I've grappled with, especially in the last, 2 years or so. And, all my friends are having kids, and I want to have kids, and James wants to have kids. And it's hard as a female athlete to do both sometimes. But we have a lot of role models in the sport that have done both and are successful at doing both. And so, yeah, I feel like I said, the Holy Spirit, after track, I want to have a lot of kids. I grew up as an only child part of the time, and then I have 3 siblings. My parents are divorced. And so as I've gotten older, I've really loved just having siblings to fall back on. And they're like built-in friends, the best of built-in friends that you could ask for. And so, yeah, in terms of like career, I have no idea what I would like to do. Anything that would allow me to spend the most time with my kids, I think, and my family, and not be, a slave to my job. I think that would make me happy. I don't really care what it is, per se, which I think, I earlier I said, well, you should care about stuff, and I do care, but you know what I mean? I think what's most important to me is just having the freedom to be with my family and my future children, God willing. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of my answer. But I will say, like, I do think the college system, having gone through it, because a lot of people's careers, or even high school, kids play high school sports and then it ends, or like people go on to college and then it ends, and I think from just hearing my friends' experience, no one prepares you for that. You work towards something your whole life and then it just ends, or you're in a really rigid routine your whole career in high school or college, and then it's just over. I think, I don't know, I think there needs to be better support or education. And I know I've seen some come through, but just on a bigger level, like I don't know, that's kind of been like my little behind the scenes mission with the girls at Virginia Tech. I'm like, your sport is not everything. It's just something that you do. It's not going to define your life. Don't let it define your life, because when it's over, then you just don't have anything to fall back on, And I think, again, that's where, for me or other Christians, that's where you have your faith, and that helps you make that transition out of sport, or even out of a career, I'm sure it's hard for maybe working moms who then have kids and then stay home. I'm sure that's a different transition as well. But yeah, I just think there should be a little bit stronger, I don't know, education or help or support system coming out of sports, or just helping people.
Well, I think, like you said, it's a system.
Yeah. And
they are set up to keep going no matter what athletes they have on their roster. They're not there to prepare you for what's next, because they're so focused on what's going on there. And I think that's an important point to make, is that folks need to find God, and they need to find a church family to be that support system to help you grow outside of that system.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you're fortunate enough, like, your coach can be that that one person, if you will, for those 4 years of your college career, or however long you're working with that person, to kind of help you see beyond your sport. I think that sometimes, I don't know, in my opinion, especially when you get to my level, I spend, it's like my coach is kind of like a father figure to me in a way. You spend a lot of hours with that person, and you trust them with your life as they're making decisions and calls for you, as you do a sport like the vault. But I think sometimes it can fall on the coach. And I've been fortunate enough with Coach Wilson and Bob here at Virginia Tech now, like they've really been, helpful, just, be in that support system. But I know not everybody has that, and so I do think it's an important thing that either you should seek out, or just surround yourself with a community at your church, or a community of Christian people that see the bigger picture of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I would say is, I think you would be an incredible mom. James would be an incredible dad. And if there's somebody that could juggle, training and continuing to do this and be a mom, you certainly could do this. And as we talked about before, the church, there's a lot of support here to help with that. I think the other thing, though, I was thinking about this as you were talking. No matter what you do, Bridget, and obviously I don't ever want you to leave your position here, because then I'm lost.
I don't want to leave it either.
We would all be lost.
Yeah. But I do hope, in whatever capacity, is you're able to be a mentor, because you're good at it. Full disclosure, my girls had Bridget for 2 years as a French teacher. And
maybe we should ask their opinion of how that went.
But Annie brought a friend to church for the first time, and the friend saw in the bulletin, about Bridget, and she asked, how do you guys know her? And Annie said, basically she's a dear friend of our family, and also been a mentor.
No.
And Annie, I won't get into all that, but she went through kind of a rough period, and you really helped her more than I could, so no matter what, I think mentoring is it's in the will of God for you. So yeah,
that would be cool too. I love giving back to girls in our sport, or guys, regardless, just in life. My life has been crazy. Not like many normal developing girls. My life has been just a little bit strange. Good. Nothing but good, but just, it's been hard in different seasons of life. And, but yeah, for anyone who knows me too, I'm a pretty open book. I'll just say it how it is. And this is the reality of the fact.
Yeah.
I don't keep many secrets. And so, yeah, I just feel like, happy to help where I can. Cause I've had a lot of friends too, you guys included, who have just, pulled back all the layers and have shared whatever was necessary to help. Yeah.
So this next question is a little more broad. People are going through a lot.
Yeah.
Whether it's financially right now, culturally, a lot of fear, especially in this country with various things happening. What advice would you give to people who are going through maybe trials, struggles, or dealing with fear?
Pray. Yeah, I think that's going to be your strongest tool, is prayer, and ask people for prayer. That was something I'm going to go talk about last year a little bit too, but I met with several people trying to pull myself out of a hole, and it all came down to prayer. You yourself pray and mean it. Doesn't matter your situation, if you're afraid, or if you are, if times are uncertain, or you're struggling, or you're ashamed, or whatever, just pray. And then also ask people to pray for you. Like, let people in on your struggle, and let them bear your burden with you, and a good friend would do that, no questions asked, won't even bat an eye. And I think, personally, that's my strongest answer, and I'll quote Dr. Matt too, because he's been a good mentor, if you will, for James and I, and he said, like, stare whatever it is in the face, grab it by the horns, and deal with it. Like, find a way. Meet with your priests, meet with friends, talk it out with people. Don't isolate yourself or hide it. And not to say go and say pity me, but just don't be ashamed of whatever trial you're going through. Just face it, accept it for what it is, and try to move forward. But I think how you do that most effectively is you pray. You get quiet and you start listening for where, not as he's going to give you a message, but you just start seeking his wisdom, because what he says is true, and that will help you. James always says too, you open the Bible when you're in a time of need, or you're going through something will be, something will resonate with you. You'll find something. Even if you just flip to a random page and start reading, you're going to find something, and almost every time that's happened to us, that's been true. So I think, again, if you call upon God for his help, he will help you. May not be in the way you want, but just know that he is doing the better good or the greater good, for whatever his will is. And I think, you just have to trust that it will get better. It won't stay bad forever. And if it does, then it's meant to be that way.
Yeah.
And you can't question it.
That's great. Final thing is, I know people, not just here at St. Philip's, but people listening to this throughout, talking about prayer. People would want to know, how they could pray for you as you head over to Paris. Is there anything specifically that you would really desire for people to pray as you get ready for this big adventure? Yeah.
I think, first and foremost, safe travels, safe competition for not only me, but for everybody who's involved. I mean, the pole vault is dangerous and scary event, can be at times. And so I think that's the main thing, is just safe travels to Paris, safe in a safe competition. And then, my biggest prayer for this year in terms of the season has just been to be courageous and gritty, and know that I've been made for a time like this. Like I read, Meg actually sent me, she's like, read the book of Esther, and I've never read that. And I read the whole thing, and it's just incredible. Like, just talk about courage and faith and like standing up and facing your fear. And that's what she did. And that gave me a lot of hope. So I think if people could just join in on that prayer to just, be a good steward of the gifts that God has given me, and whatever the outcome, then to just be, happy with that, and to know that that's, that was God's will. And I think that's the only thing that we can pray for going into the Olympics, because win or lose, it's going to be fine. Life is going to go on, but I do have a really good shot at doing well. And like I said, I have a gift and a talent, and I've worked hard for it. So I think if I can just trust God's will for me and whatever he wants, whatever his plan is, then that would be really helpful. So if people could just pray for that.
Well, we love you, and we will keep you in our prayers. And, I think of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, it just kept coming into my mind as we were talking. Whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God.
Yep. Yeah. I think Trish sent me that, or you maybe. One of you sent it to me.
It's probably Trish.
I think, after the meet. But yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think, I think this has been great. We'll keep you in our prayers. Thank you. We look forward to having you back, and you can tell us the adventure of Paris.
Yeah.
What it was like to be up on the podium and all that good stuff.
Manifested medal.
Show off your medal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Well, it's been such a pleasure. It's been really fun.
No, good. Thank you again. And again, those listening, we didn't plan on having an episode, but then, this happened where Bridget not only, it's one thing to place, you have to be in the top 3. It's another thing to win the whole thing.
Right.
Which I've never done either. I've never finished top 3, and I've never won.
And what's incredible about, that's why I said perseverance, and it's not even about winning. It's just everything you've gone through, but to know that you kind of barely got in with the qualifying, and then you not only, make the team, win the competition. That was incredible.
And I think I will add one last thing. Like, what was really cool for me is, like, my family is pretty reserved in terms of their faith, not always like willing to share as freely. And I was there too, like not long ago, I was there too. And after the prelim, it was really cool to hear my dad say, like, God put you in that final, for him to recognize, like, that was not a product of anything else other than God putting you in that final. And so you're gonna, like, it is now your job to respond to that and do something big in the final, and that was like probably one of the highlights of the trip. That was just like really cool. And the whole weekend, or I guess not whole weekend, but the day between, the whole 24 hours between the prelim and the final was about that, like even my brother, he was like, I was praying for you,
Yeah.
And that was like really cool, to have people who are not, they're faithful, obviously, but just, like proclaim that out loud. That was really cool for me to just, really for them to speak up and be like, hey, we see it, we know it, we know that was God's work at play here, and so that was really cool.
Well, that's great. It's been great. Yep. And hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will let Stu close us out.
All right. Yeah, folks, this has been a wonderful episode, and once again, Bridget, we love you, and we know that you will be an example to so many people that you know and don't know around the world. And we're just extremely proud of you. If you all have any questions or comments, you can email us at podcast@stphillipsblacksburg.org or podcast@anglicanprovince.org, and we will most certainly respond to your questions. Thanks so much, and we will see you again very soon.